What did a kid in your school do to get expelled? Very weird kid in my year at the time came into school with huge amounts of hairspray in his hair. The amount where your hair eventually sticks like gel but without actually using any. Guy that sat behind him in one of our classes happened to be one of the worst behaved kids in the school, and he proceeded to get out his lighter and light his hair on fire. It didn't go up like if it were oil, but it definitely stayed alight long enough to see him running out the door with his hair smoking. Both kids were gone after that. Dude smuggled a wine bottle. How the teachers found out? Well, the brass knuckles he was carrying in the backpack broke the bottle and spilled wine in the middle of the classroom. Threw a chair at our pregnant teacher in year 5. 9-10-year-old. I also went to his house to play because our mums were friends, and he beat me up so badly, kicking my stomach in until I puked in the car ride home, and my mum came running and screaming. I'm also a girl, so it's not like we were rowdy boys play fighting. Never seen that kid since. A kid escaped school on a Gordon food service truck during recess. They found him hiding in the Uncrustable sandwich box while unloading the truck when they got back to their little warehouse. 2 kids were dealing drugs out of their lockers. It was actually a pretty good plan. One had a locker upstairs and the other's locker was downstairs. Everyone who bought drugs knew the combinations. People were told which locker had their merch, and when you had class on that floor you'd get a hall pass and stop by the locker. A teacher got suspicious of seeing multiple kids going to the same locker. I will never forget being in class and getting the lockdown announcement while drug dogs were brought in, and seeing one of the kids flying down the hallway toward his locker. Repeatedly put used condoms in a girl's locker to the point where there was a sting operation to catch him. I live in a ruralish Irish town and our school was built next to a massive wheat farm. One day a kid bought in a plastic bottle filled with petrol and matches. He hopped over the fence at lunchtime and set the field on fire. Destroyed the farmer's entire plot. Apparently it was about 500k worth of crops. He also served time. Was pretty wild. One girl I went to HS with stole some school letterhead and proceeded to make her own report cards all year. Super quiet girl. I had her pegged as the honor student type. I don't know if she got expelled, but I never saw her again. Some kid in my elementary school got expelled for dropping fireworks through mail slot in the school front door, blowing the glass out of it. Elementary school. Released 500 crickets into our school cafeteria, then proceeded to sit back and watch the madness. A source officer caught as many as he could and ended up putting in the perpetrator's car via an open window. He had the last laugh. He could fart at will by sucking air into his asshole and then letting it rip. He once tried it under the shower after PE. Well, it turns out that if you suck water with your asshole you end up shooting watery ictums. We were laughing our asses off to this at Canon until one guy went to tell the teacher and he had to go and clean it up. One kid came into the school and shot a bunch of students with a BB gun. He was a pretty troubled kid. Later on he ended up going to the same high school as me, did the same kind of stupid, dropped out in grade 11, and I didn't know what happened to him for many years. Recently though I found out he's gotten his act together by the sounds of it, owns his own construction company and dropped the drugs, seems to be doing alright. He stole a butcher knife from the cafeteria kitchen and attacked a teacher with it. They tried to subdue him. This is the era before school resource officers' school shootings, and someone pulled the fire alarm. We all evacuated the building. In the ensuing scuffle with the principal, he dropped the butcher knife but grabbed all the plastic knives and forks from the cafeteria. He ran outside to where we were standing and threw them at us. Since they were cheap plastic, nobody got hurt. He was eventually tackled by the gym teacher and principal, then carted away in an ambulance. Kid never came back to school. The school also decided that banning plastic knives and forks would prevent this incident from happening again. So they replaced all plastic silverware with sporks, which is a real tragedy. Kid did get the mental help he needed and has gone on to be a productive member of society. Pushed a kid into bookcase, thus knocking down the whole row of books, all over an airplane engineering book. Stabbed a kid with a pair of scissors. Oof, this is a good one. One of the teachers in my high school was born without his right arm from elbow down. He was the new English teacher. Pretty young, good looking and whatnot. We also had another new female teacher come in that year who was quite attractive. If you've ever heard of the movie Teeth, it's about this girl with teeth in her V that like eats things or whatever. Anyway, some kid photoshopped both of their faces onto the movie poster and made it say MR. Didn't always have one arm. The picture got around quite fast. And I went to Catholic school and this was a big no-no. The kid was super smart too. What a shame. Groping everything that moved, including me. Set a girl's hair on fire because he was bored. Tried to choke someone to death after allegedly being called fat by the kid. Kid sprayed bear spray all over the boys' bathroom. It spread through the halls and more than 20-30 people got it in their eyes and mouth and had trouble breathing, including some of my best friends, who had to go home cause they couldn't breathe. Kid in my sister's class called in a bomb threat to the school from the school cafeteria payphone. This was in 1999, so before everyone had cell phones. He was arrested and expelled. In the canyons near our housing, there was lots of old World War II ordnance from when it was a proving ground. Lots of people collected the mostly harmless dummy ordnance. However, some kids found a mortar round and it blew up while they were playing catch with it. 2 of the 3 kids died, so the alarm went off to turn in whatever you had. They found some really impressive collections. So the fire department and army EOD came to our school to show us some examples of what we could come across. As we sat in the bleachers of the gym, this kid stands up holding what appeared to be a shiny aluminum softball and asked if it was anything. The EOD guys froze and we all had to evacuate. Turned out to be from a cluster bomb. Never seen that kid again. After 9/11, my school had a huge memorial and planted a remembrance tree. Some kid pissed on it and ripped it up the next day. 1. Fire extinguisher battle. HS. 2. Fox urine in the ventilation. HS. 3. Stood up on desk, playing air guitar with pants and underwear at his ankles. Elementary. I am from the Midwest. This was the mid-90s. A middle schooler went bird hunting over the weekend. He still had shotgun shells in his coat jacket on Monday. No weapon, just the shells. When he got to school he realized the shells were there and immediately turned them into the principal. He was suspended from classes until the board made their decision and he was eventually expelled. Kid made an honest mistake, did the right thing to correct the mistake, and was punished to the maximum for it. When I was in middle school, around age 13, there was a girl in the class sending threatening emails with rather serious threats to all the popular girls. It ended up escalating to where the FBI was involved and it turns out one of the popular girls herself who was targeted was the one sending the messages. This was the late 90s, so don't think she even bothered to cover her tracks much and just used her home computer. Like, her decomposing body was found in the river like 10 years later. Looking back on it all, I'm pretty sure she had undiagnosed mental problems that were starting to surface, and was one of those people who never managed to get them under control, He was a junior. A freshman was giving him a blowjob in the closet during anime club and a teacher walked in on them. He would poop in a bag and stick it in somebody's backpack. He did this twice. First time he got suspended and a warning. Second time he got expelled. This was in 9th grade. My brother got expelled for mooning the teacher in the middle of class. I almost did too. For figuring out how to open the console on our lockdown computers and running a command that made "I'm Rick James" itch pop up on every screen in the school during standardized tests. He was special needs but got zero tolerance because he made a series of drawings about taking over the school with fart bombs. Hitting a teacher with a bacon baguette. A kid got high on meth and stole a bus. He did a few donuts in the parking lot then drove away, only to get it stuck in a ditch. So he walked back to the school to take a second bus to go pull the first bus out of the ditch. The police were waiting at the first bus when he got there. Grew pot in their locker. I have no friggin' clue how he managed it, but he did. This dumbass broke into someone's house, stole their guns, then got busted trying to sell them to an undercover cop. He got expelled and arrested. One of the special ed kids kept escaping the school, allegedly through a bathroom window, would strip down and try to play in traffic in front of the building. Beat up a girl apparently. That was the last reason why someone got expelled. Before that I've only heard from 2 cases where someone was expelled. A bombing shooting threat and threatening to kill someone and themselves if the other person doesn't want to date them. He was an all-around bully that nobody liked and was always getting into trouble. Final straw was that he was caught accessing someone else's grades and was making fun of the person for said grades. A kid and his friend egged the school from an airplane. It was crazy. The one guy's dad had a Cessna or something with a private strip in the middle of a field. One night they went to the egg farm next door, stole a bunch of eggs, then took off in the airplane in the middle of the night. Apparently they did manage to drop eggs around the school, but early in the morning the fog set in and they couldn't find their way back to the landing strip. They ended up flying very low around town, which post 9/11 freaked everybody out. One of the hotels was evacuated. Eventually they were arrested and expelled from school for it, but I think it took a while to figure out what happened. He crushed a canister of pepper spray with pliers until it exploded. They evacuated the entire school and shut down that wing of the school for 3 days until the city and school district cleared it safe for use. Kid hospitalized one student for a few days and earned the guy some juvie time and hefty fines. That area of the school smelled like old fish and bleach 4 weeks afterwards. He targeted Jewish kids in school by removing their yarmulkes and biting their heads. After the 5th victim, the assailant was expelled. I don't know why the first 4 went unnoticed. When I was in high school, a kid sprayed pepper spray in the school ventilation system. It was kind of a big deal because the school doesn't have any windows that open. The school had to be evacuated and I think we got to leave a few hours early. I knew the guy. Typical trash. He eventually got hooked on drugs. No idea what he's doing anymore. My friend left his BB gun and pocket knife in his backpack on accident. The police did a random search of certain classrooms that day and his room was picked. Quite frankly, when I found out, I was not surprised that he was expelled. What I was surprised about was that he didn't get expelled for marijuana possession or setting off fireworks in the middle of the amphitheater. On the latter, I was disappointed. She tried to burn the library. A kid was caught smoking weed on the bus, got suspended for it, and his very first day back he snorted sugar off a toilet seat. After he got expelled, his student ID number spread throughout the school so everyone was checking his grades. He had a GPA of 0.082. At lunchtime, one kid managed to sneak inside the school library and made all the computers go on Pornhub. Shortly after that, they wore a white mask and took out a water gun threatening to shoot the school if people don't bow down to him. This kid wasn't expelled, but I genuinely do not see why he wasn't. 7th grade in Sweden, casual class for those who need extra time for Swedish English, over Jesparfra. In the middle of the class he pulls out a revolver replica, which looked insanely real, and points it up at 5th ceiling. He was sitting further behind than mostly everyone, so the first one to notice it was the teacher. The expression on his face was something along the lines of "what the duck" whilst the kid was smirking. That day was the first day I had ever seen that teacher walk that fast over to confiscate it. Nonetheless, I was scared for a second because that kid wasn't exactly someone you could think good of when you'd see a revolver in his hand. Ick now. Thankfully he wasn't there to shoot us all up because that'd been not so fun. Thanks but not thanks for not killing us. Stabbing another kid, understandably frowned upon. Small private school. Kid sprinted and jump kicked another kid into a door, splitting his head open for some reason I can't even remember. He was gone pretty quick after that. Bronx Zoo trip. So girl decided that she would not only decide to shoplift $100 worth of merch from the GF shop, but also kidnap a butterfly from the butterfly greenhouse in her backpack. She proceeded to kill the butterfly when she got home. This one kid activated the fire alarm 4 times this one day, and the school had to be evacuated said times. This other kid got access to his class's grade book. He stole the book and lit it on fire, I think. He got expelled. Some other guy destroyed every speaker in every classroom. Some other student kicked a ball in a teacher's face and broke her jaw on purpose. My school was ducked. He would call our middle school making bomb threats back to back, and we often had to stay on the bus or evacuate to a nearby church until school hours were over. Started a petition to get a teacher to resign, be fired. Now that I think about it, getting expelled for that absolutely screams some weird school dictatorship. We had a kid get so mad at a girl for rejecting him over prom that he killed her cat, chopped its head off, and left the head in her locker. In high school, a gal decided to give her boyfriend a blowjob behind the math building in the middle of the school day, only to be discovered by a mentally handicapped student. Of course, only the girl was expelled for it. Only guy that got expelled the year I finished high school. Sucker punched a dude with a combination lock in his hand, knocked out 2 teeth. Kid used to jack off in classroom. One day the teacher came to his table while he was doing it because she realized that the kid was acting weird. He was in the no returning point. I think that I don't have to explain what happened next. We were supposed to come up with a creative story for the basic assessment test that we were taking. His story was about killing several teachers. He'd steal stuff and smoke pot in all the businesses around the school. When he got in trouble for it, he called the dean, who's black, the hard RN word twice. A friend of mine threw a pack of pledges through a clock. When I was in 3rd grade, some kid got expelled for bringing knives to school for protection. He was a bit of a hothead. He never used them on anyone, but all the kids knew he had one on him at all times. When he got caught a few weeks into it, his parents were called in and apparently they were trying to justify the kid having the knives at school. Most kids never saw the kid after he went to the office that one day. Oh, this was me. I got expelled from my charter middle school for being a witch. I was really into astrology and some people who didn't like me accused me of having a curse list. It was a list of kids who wanted me to read their palms and do tarot card readings for them. My mom was pissed because she thought it was stupid that I was getting expelled on the word of 3 12-year-olds and on the basis of witchcraft. She was pissed that she had to move schools, so she set her new one on fire, snuck out of the school during lunch with some matches and set one of the trees in the nearby bushland on fire, which spread to the science block and then the English block. Firefighters were called and we evacuated and got sent to the gym. She didn't try to hide it. She bragged about it until one student eventually dobbed her in and then she was gone. There was some kid who called a bomb threat in my school district a couple years ago, and one kid at my high school said that one day later, the principal went into her class to get him. He hasn't been seen at my school since then. Kid vaped every day, brought a vape to school, got suspended. Immediately after getting off of suspension, he brought a dab pen to school, got expelled, repealed the expulsion, got accepted, brought another dab pen to school the next day, got expelled again. Kid built a pipe bomb and blew up the press box of our football field. He then bragged about it. The twist? I taught him how to make the pipe bomb using the anarchist cookbook. Never expected him to do something that stupid. Caused a lockdown by chasing people around with knives or something. One guy got suspended for effing one of the goats at the ag barn. Poor girl who owned the goat was devastated after found out, as was the ag teacher and principal when the scene came across the security footage. Second dude was expelled for the rest of the semester for recording the first dude there find the goat. Also almost got charged or did get charged with some other offenses for having not only the goat video, but some inappropriate pictures of some girls from our school on his phone. He called my mom a slut and brought a knife and fireworks to school. I hated that kid. Troubled classmate. Came in fired up and angry one day, swearing very loudly as he walked to his locker. Some teachers came out of their classrooms to talk to him and he gave them a middle finger, told them to F themselves and pulled a half-empty bottle of whiskey out of his bag on the ground and took a big swig of it. I guess if you are going out, go out big. Had an ounce of weed, paper for blunts and an unregistered gun in his car. Lost all of his college acceptances and everything. He's been an absolute nightmare for the women in the school, so I couldn't care less that he's gone. Hope he gets what he deserves, but his parents pay for everything anyways. He brought a BB gun that looked like a pistol to school. Someone told on him thinking it was a real pistol. The cops went to his locker to get the pistol and had a long talk with him as well as school admins. They didn't arrest him. It was middle school. Apparently he told them he was afraid for his life, which is believable because of all the gangs in our area. But if they knew the city kid, they'd know he was the real danger. He was a piece of it. He's currently in prison for selling drugs or something. IDK. Thinking back, I never saw him during high school. He might have dropped out. He lived near the high school I went to and our class grade was pretty small. In high school a guy taped his phone to his shoe, slid it under a girl and took up skirts of her. The logistics are still confusing to me. He then sent those photos to his friends via Snapchat. He got expelled from the school, but somehow wasn't put on the sex offender list. He airdropped a dong pic to the teacher during class, leaving an envelope filled with baby powder in the hallway during the anthrax scare. 2 years ago a lesbian couple was nominated for the Homecoming King and Queen court and they won it. Everyone was really happy for them except a few major assholes. At my high school, it's tradition for seniors to have their own parking space and they get to paint their parking space and make it custom. It's really cool. So right after the homecoming football game the pose went out to their parking spaces and vandalized them and took spray paint and painted swastikas on their parking spaces and wrote ugly dykes on one of them. They were expelled less than a week later. Made a nonsense bucket list, steal a pencil, make a paper airplane, etc. with the final task being kill Sally Johnson. Poor taste and joke. Threw the list in the garbage and someone found it. Police came. Sally was asked if she felt intimidated by the students in question. She says yes. Students never seen again. One guy deep fried a picture of our principal and put the caption "obey" on it. He printed out thousands of stickers and put them all over the school. The next day the principal had an assembly saying how it hurt his feelings. Then some kids snitched on the guy who did it and he got expelled cause the principal's feelings were hurt. There were 2 kids, best friends. Kid 1, we had this little signature center in my high school and it had a little pond with a bunch of fish. Well, Kid 1 decided it would be super cool to jump in and fish out, no pun intended, as many fish as he could get. Got them. He liked to carry around a pocket knife for safety reasons and throw them at the students and teacher one day. I only know this because one of my friends was there and wanted to put it in the school's newspaper but was denied to do so. Kid 2, TBH. Thought it was kinda funny but totally duck boy material at the same time. Anyways, we had a photography class at school and were only allowed to take the very expensive cameras out of the classroom to take pictures when we had assignments. So, Kid 1 ended up taking said camera home. Not sure how cause our teacher would count every camera before class left for the day, and when he got home, he took a bunch of D-pics with the expensive camera and when he got to class the next day, thought it would be a good idea to download and print the D-pics on the class computer. Apparently he only wanted to just sneak the pictures into his crush's backpack, but somehow, someway he left the camera drive in the computer and the teacher found his D-pics and not only told the principal but showed her as well. Dude was expelled that very day, only a week or so after his best friend. Pretty sure his crush didn't receive the D-pics either. LMAO.